I'm Just Like You. I like art.
My favorite song is Michael Jackson.
I make jewelry. I made this bracelet.
I like to read, eat, and sleep.
Mi piace a scuola, un pochino a scuola.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal with Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos. Moi, j'ai aimé à jouer foot.
Then and pick my favorite color.
Off the Wall Thriller.
You want to sing one for us?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
Hi, I'm Molly Korte, founder of Project Just Like You. I began Project Just Like You after my son Jacob was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder in 2016, in the summer of 2016. In the late fall, I began sharing stories. So Project Just Like You is about sharing stories. We are building a community of inclusion by sharing and by focusing on what we have in common. Because I truly believe when we focus on what we have in common, we break down all those stigmas, all those barriers, and we start to see a person. And when you see a person, that's where a friendship can begin. So I'm very passionate about this mission. And this year in Project Just Like You, we've begun Movement Monday. And this is where every Monday night, we interview someone in the disability community who is doing awesome things. So whether it be parent advocates, executive directors of nonprofits, self-advocates, we have people that we feel are making waves and making changes and are advocating for the rights of those in the disability community. We are so excited to have you with us tonight to join us. And we are, Movement Mondays, I want to also say this, is produced by Fiat Media. So we want to give them a shout out as well. You can check them on their Facebook, Fiat Ministry, or their webpage, fiatministrynetwork.tv. I hope you also will take a moment to click the share button and let your friends know what you're watching. Tonight, one lucky person who contributes a relative question or comment during our live interview will win, and guys, I'm really excited about this because this is an awesome prize tonight. We'll win a virtual ticket to the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network Connection Convention that is next month. So we are giving away a virtual ticket tonight to this. That means that you get to do all you get to see everything behind the scenes, and you get to meet the keynote speakers, and you get to be part of that conference. And so this is a very exciting prize for us to give out tonight on Project Just Like You. And we want to thank Lori for hooking us up with that and getting us into for that prize tonight. Okay, so please let us know who you are and where you're from. We also have a number of followers as well who are from outside the country. So if you're from the outside of the country, let us know that as well. We always get excited when people from other parts of the world join in on our conversations. Tonight, we are so excited to have Lori, and Lori, if I mispronounce, just help me with this. I am so sorry. So tonight we're excited to have Lori help me, Lori.
Sapkowskis. Sure. Close enough.
Okay.
That's good.
Lori is a mother to a little girl with Down syndrome, and she is a CHD warrior. Her little girl is Emily. She strongly is advocating for her daughter and her peers while providing support for expectant mothers with a prenatal diagnosis. So this is Lori's passion. And we are just so excited to have her tonight. So welcome, Lori.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So Lori, you have had quite a journey with Emily.
Yes.
Tell us, help fill us in now for some
good.
for some of the people that may not know, like, you know, with a few small.
Where to begin? I mean, our story started literally from the beginning. I found out we have a son, Tyler, and on the morning of his second birthday, we had been trying to conceive our second child, and thank the Lord, it happened fairly quickly for us. And I got the positive pregnancy test the morning of his birthday, and we were just overjoyed. So happy birthday, buddy. You're getting a baby, you know, brother or sister.
Right.
So,
perfect gift.
Yes. And we were so happy. And his birthday party was that day. So I had to carry around a wine glass with water in it so that nobody would suspect anything. And I still laugh about the fact that my family had no clue.
I love it.
Around 13 weeks, I am a hairstylist. I was standing behind the shampoo bowl, and I was shampooing a client, and I didn't feel right that day. Something was off, and it was summer. I was wearing a dress, and I heard splash, and I'm like, oh my God, my water just broke. And I was only 13 weeks. I had just shouted it to the world that I was pregnant, and I looked down, and it was blood everywhere. So I excused myself. I ran to the bathroom where I sat and watched what I thought to be the end of my pregnancy.
Oh my gosh.
And I was almost numb. I told my client, I'm like, I'm so sorry, I have to go. I'm losing my baby. And obviously everybody was like, we'll drive you. And I'm like, I was numb. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. I'm only 13 weeks. I was trying to justify it. So we get to the hospital, and after sitting in the ER everybody knows, God bless people that work in the ER, but it takes a long time when you're in there. So about 6 hours later, they did an ultrasound, and they said, do you see that? And I said, yeah. And they go, that's your baby. Do you see that? I said, yeah. They go, that's your baby's heartbeat. So I had lost my pregnancy, and sure enough, there the baby was bouncing around. So that night I was diagnosed with a subchorionic hematoma, which is a pocket of blood that pools between the placenta and the uterus, which can cause the placenta to detach, and it could most times result in a miscarriage. Mm-hmm. So I went, they just said, keep an eye on it. And then at 19 weeks, I went for my anatomy scan. And I went in thinking, by that time we had found out it was a girl, so we were super excited. And I went in for my anatomy scan, and I had done this before, so I went by myself. I knew what to expect. I expected on going in there and having them look at this bleed to see if it had shrunk, if it was growing. And I noticed the tech was staying on my daughter's heart. And I'm like, what is the obsession with her heart? So 45 minutes of the hour ultrasound was spent with them checking her heart. So she's like, I'm going to call the doctor in. I'm going to have him take a look. And I'm like, oh my God. So he picks up the little wand. He goes right for the heart. So I look up and I go, what are you not telling me? And he's like, we found something wrong with your baby's heart. And I said, wrong? He goes, yes, there's a hole in her heart. So then they referred us to a fetal cardiologist. They did the echo. Thankfully, my husband was with me at that time. And that's when they said, it's not just a hole. It's actually 3 holes, one of which is so large, it's right at the middle of her heart. It's basically, your heart is 4 chambers. It was making it 1 chamber. And they shut the door behind us and just said, she's going to require open heart surgery in the first 3 months of life. And also, we think she might have Down syndrome. So that was my pregnancy. That was my experience. I did not do prenatal testing at first, but once the heart defect showed up and we knew how severe it was, the Down syndrome wasn't going to change anything on my end. It was what it was. I was terrified. I was very sad. I've always been very open and honest about being upset about that diagnosis. So at 33 weeks pregnant, I decided to go forward with genetic testing, and I did. And 6 days later, I got a phone call from my doctor, and I just said hello, and he said, "I'm so sorry, it's positive for Downs." And I just collapsed, and I was so, it was, for me, it's, unfortunately, I always say getting that diagnosis was harder than getting the diagnosis of her heart, because I remember saying to myself, they can fix her heart, they can't fix her Down syndrome. And now I know it's the opposite. I don't care about her Down syndrome. I don't care. I think it makes her extra cute. Just fix her heart.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, did I have it backwards?
Oh, wow.
So, yes, it was definitely a learning experience.
I can only imagine. Lori, I'm curious. So when you first heard all this information coming at you,
Yes.
what were your thoughts? What was going through your head?
I felt so alone. I felt as though I was the first person to ever get this diagnosis. I felt, what are people going to think of me? Are people going to judge me? Are people going to think, what did that mother do wrong during her pregnancy? My friends didn't understand. My family didn't understand. Not that I expected them to, but it was hard, which is, like you said, why I feel so strongly about connecting with other prenatal moms who feel alone, who feel ashamed of the feelings they're feeling in their head. And I just want them to know that those feelings are justified. They are healthy. They are normal. Even the worst thoughts that are going through your head, they are normal. It's okay. You have to respect the journey. Everybody's going to go on their own journey of, you have to grieve. You have to grieve the life you thought you were going to have. It's so important. You have to talk about it. You're going to go through all the stages. It's something that you can't, until you go through it, it's almost impossible to comprehend.
Sure, absolutely. And you know, Lori, even though my son Jacob has ASD,
Yes,
I can relate on so many levels, as I'm sure so many parents who are watching right now can. You're talking about that grieving process.
yes.
And that is something that we had to do as well.
Yep.
Because you think, as you've, having a child with a disability, you think at first, here's the life you envision for them.
Yep.
And then you look at it and you're like, you know what, this was nothing at all how I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And so I think that is so important. You talk about that grieving process. And I think that is so important to allow yourself and to go through that. It's natural, it's normal, and it's,
absolutely. It's so easy to say, that test wouldn't change anything, and I believe that it wouldn't, and it didn't. However, I remember the hardest part of it all, and it's still to me, is that my daughter will never call me and say, "Mom, I'm pregnant." Mm-hmm. That to me is the most soul-crushing part of her diagnosis, is that my daughter will never have a daughter of her own. And I know that people say, don't count her out, it could happen, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But realistically, it's not very likely. It would be the biggest blessing in the world, but it's not something that looks like it'll happen in her future. I'm hopeful she'll get married and walk down the aisle. I am hopeful that she will drive a car. I'm hopeful that she will have a job. The future, there's a lot of possibilities for Emily in her future, and I'm learning that as I go along in this journey.
Oh, of course, absolutely. And
I've been listening to so many stories on Mondays of these.
Oh, well, thank you, Lori.
Oops.
I'm sorry. We just dropped something. Sorry about that. Go ahead. Keep going. Just kind of flew off.
I love what you're doing, and it's helping moms like me, and you're helping make my mission easier, because I just send people your way. I go, you gotta watch Molly Project, just like you guys are doing a wonderful
Thank
thing.
you. Well, Lori, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. And, that's what this is all about. It's about connecting, and it's about building that community, because I think every single one of us longs for a community, especially when you have a child. And I feel like this community is such a special community. Yes, when you have a child with a disability, it's almost like you are just now in this club of awesomeness.
The most club ever.
Yeah, right. And
I've
I
met some of the greatest people of my life in this community. It's been
absolutely.
a very awesome experience.
And that's awesome. Yeah, I feel the same exact way, and it's a good community to be part of. And you don't think that, but when you get into it, you're like, holy cow, these people are amazing.
You never thought you wanted to be a part of.
Exactly. You know it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We want to join some people. We have about 62 people on here right now, Lori. So I'll read some of the names. We want to welcome Emily, Sarah, Whitley, Montag, Millie, Charlotte, Lori, Donna, Reagan, Rob, Demi, Dee Dee, Brian, Brenda, Tina, Terry, Lauren, Tammy, Michelle, and Cynthia. So those are some of the people that I see. I'm sure you probably know some of these people.
I watches my children for me. Hi, Dee Dee.
Awesome. And so we want to encourage you guys. I know that some of you guys have submitted some questions, and I'm waiting here for, so I was telling Lauren that my husband actually helps me with this, Brian, and he fields a lot of these questions. So we have some questions here. And let's see.
Oh, I'm nervous about the questions.
No, everyone wants to get to know.
Oh boy.
So, oh my goodness. So my husband's writing me, so 8 caps, many questions, hang on. This is perfect. Well, guys, this is exciting.
Well, that makes me happy. People are interested, and that's why I do what I do, because I want to educate and I want to share our story. So
absolutely, and I think it's so important.
Yes.
Oh, hey, here we go. We have a comment here. Sandy Griffin Diana's been following Emily's heart since surgery 1, and Lori is an awesome mom. Thank you, Sandy. We agree too. Here at Project Just Like You.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And we're waiting for some, I think. Okay, so here we have Montag Christian wants to know, how did you feel when you first heard about Emily's diagnosis?
As far as her, her heart and her Down syndrome are two very separate processes.
Okay.
Her heart, for me, finding out the diagnosis of her heart was overwhelming. So as far as her heart is concerned, they gave me the information and I felt, okay, this is terrible news, but they seem to have a really good plan in place. I loved our doctors. So that part was a tough pill to swallow, but I feel as though I didn't really understand the extent of it until she was born. So the diagnosis of her heart was a little bit less of a, it's hard to explain. The Down syndrome diagnosis was the one that was hard because I knew what that looked like, and I knew, or at least I should say I thought I knew what that looked like, and I thought I knew what that meant. So I had a really hard time with that diagnosis. I've never been one to sugarcoat that. I was very sad, and I know my family was sad, and now she's ironically the one that makes us the happiest. So
amazing how that works out.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So you had a lot of emotions, it sounded like, from both ends.
Yes. Very different emotions, but very real, very, very strong feelings towards both of them. But one made me scared, the other made me sad. So
sure.
A little bit different, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And now you just see the joy that comes out of this sweet girl.
That's all I see.
With all her fans.
Oh my gosh, she does have Down syndrome. I don't even remember half the time.
I think it should be called Up syndrome, really. I mean,
she has a shirt that says Up syndrome, and I love it. It's cute.
Absolutely. Sarah, and excuse me if I'm not pronouncing your last name, I'm going to try my best here. Sarah Pakolik wants to know, how did you handle all of the obnoxious stares from people when you guys are out anywhere? It's interesting.
So it is interesting. It's hard because just the other day, I was at the out to eat with my son. We had like a little mommy son date.
Oh,
And
sweet.
there was a couple who was at the table next to us, and they were deaf, and they were signing to each other.
Mhm.
And signing is something that we are teaching Emily. So
Mhm.
I caught myself not staring, but glancing, because I was so intrigued by it and so engulfed in it. And I'm like, that is just such a sign language to me is so beautiful.
Mhm.
So when I notice stares, when Emily is tube fed, so when people stare when I'm feeding her, or if they stare when she has her oxygen on, I try to tell myself, maybe they're just trying to learn. Maybe they're just curious. So I really don't let the stares get to me. And thankfully, we don't have too many. I do think that mostly when we're feeding her, and it's actually the sweetest. The kids always come up to me and ask, what are you doing? How are you feeding your baby? And that's when I'll say, oh, this is how she eats, and this is her tubie. And I use it as an opportunity to educate the little ones. And they're usually pretty, they just need a simple answer. Oh, that's how she eats. Okay. And then they go on their way. And
Absolutely.
but the stares truly don't bother me. I just try to tell myself people are just curious. It's different.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe I would just have a thicker skin. I'm not sure, but it doesn't bother me too much.
That's so interesting you're talking about that, because my kids and I were out tonight with some friends, as we talked about earlier before we began the show.
Yeah.
And there was a woman that came up to me, because my son Jacob loves doors. That's his repetitive behavior. That's what he loves doing. And we were at this Chick-fil-A, and he was at the play center, and he was playing with the doors. I didn't think twice about it, because that's life. He sees a door, he opens and closes. Another mom came over to me out of concern and said, I'm so worried that another child's fingers are going to get hurt. I'm sorry to even, like, she was embarrassed. I could tell she was embarrassed by bringing it up.
Right.
But just like you, I guess, where you just kind of like, you know what, that's life for us. Yeah, he opens and closes doors. Oh, sure, I'll get him for you, not a problem. But, you do deal with that.
And I feel like it would be a really sad life if we continued to just let it all get to us. And I try to look at like things from a glass half full. And
absolutely. Absolutely no. I mean, for you, I understand it's when she walks out in public, people may stare. For me, it's not so much staring, but it's that behavior, and people notice that there's something.
They're going to notice something might be a little bit different. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So absolutely. Well, good for you. I mean, that's a great attitude to have, Lori.
Thank you.
Whitley writes in and says, I'm so glad to see Tyler and Emily's bond. My sister also has Down syndrome. We are 16 years apart, but she is the pea to my pod. There's nothing I wouldn't do for her. Whitley, I love that. That's awesome. Thank you. That is beautiful. Sandy writes in and says, been following Emily's heart since surgery 1, and Lori's an awesome mom. And Rebecca from Homer Glen wants to know, who's your favorite sister?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to say my sister Rebecca. The question.
How many sisters do you have?
I have 2. So I know the other one's working tonight, so she's not watching.
So you can get away with it.
For tonight.
So there you go, Rebecca. You're the one tonight. Gotta love sibling rivalry, right?
Her first child, a little boy, so I'm so excited for her. So a little shout out to my soon-to-be nephew.
Oh, so exciting! Congratulations! That's awesome. Emily wants to know, what's the best advice you've received, Lori?
Oh my goodness, I feel like I've received a lot of good advice. The best is from a hospital standpoint, treat your nurses good.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but be good to your nurses. They will always be good to you, but treat your nurses good. It's like tipping your waitress. Just be good to your nurses. That is literally the best advice I could give you. These nurses work their butts off. They are most of them haven't used the restroom all day. Be good to your nurses, and this journey has taught me they will take care of them, and they will take care of you. So be good to your nurses. That is the best.
So I hope you guys all got that out there.
Be
Be
good
good
to
to those nurses.
all of our nurses.
Absolutely. Michelle writes in, she says, how do you handle people using the R word? Even though we have all used it in our past, and now our job is to educate, how would you handle a person say, well, you can't be upset because you've used it before? Ooh,
I think
that's a good one.
It is a good question. I have used it before, and I am guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until Emily was born that I became aware of how hurtful it was.
Mm-hmm.
So to that, I just say, now I know, and now I'm educated, and now I know how hurtful it is. So I just use that as my opportunity to say, I know I've used it in the past, but I also now was educated on how hurtful it truly is. I do hear it often, and I don't correct them every time. I wish I had the courage to do it every time. I don't like confrontation, and I think that's my downfall. My weakness is that I don't like confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do advocate
In the
for
same way.
not using that word. If I hear somebody use it time and time again, I will kind of give them a look, or somebody will they'll say the word and then go, oh, but I'm not talking about your daughter. Well, I know you're not talking about my daughter. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a very tough question to answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I do just say, I know I've used it, but it's like car seats. Parents didn't used to use car seats either, but they do now. Why?
Right.
Because they learned that it's safe and that it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's
absolutely
kind of far-fetched connection, but things have changed. The world has changed.
Yes.
Politically correctness, things have changed.
Absolutely. And you also can't use your past against you. Like we make mistakes in our past. That's what it's all about. But hopefully you don't make the same mistakes, and you live and learn and you move on.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that being honest about it, just what you said, like, okay, so I may have used it before my past, but that's just not a word we use, period. Good question though. Thanks, Michelle.
That was a good question. That was a tough one. That's always a tough one.
Put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot.
Sandy wants to know if people stare at Emily, or Sandy makes this comment here, excuse me. She said, if people stare at Emily, it's because she's the cutest little girl ever. We have to agree.
I tell myself, I'm like, I just think she's cute.
We agree, Sandy. She's pretty precious. Michelle writes in, Lori, and says, do you just brush it off, or do you hold that near and dear to your heart when people say a comment or they stare? I think that's what she's alluding to.
It really depends on who it is. If it's a coworker, I'm a hairstylist, part-time hairstylist. If it is a coworker who been working with for 13 years, I do educate them. I do take it as an opportunity to express how I feel about it. If it's somebody, it's so hard. It all depends. It really does. Family, I will be the first to jump in and tell family, you are an advocate for Emily, whether you want to be or not. You are pretend like you walk around wearing an Emily shirt all day, every day. You are a billboard for her. You have to advocate for her. You have to for her. My family has been so on board. They're so happy and excited to talk about her. But I typically try to say something like, "Oh, I have a daughter with special needs." We don't use that word. Do I let it get to me? No, I don't, because I know that just like saying, I hate the G word, GAY. I don't even like to say it, but people use it as not to say anything to the LGBT community. It's just a verb? Is that the right? I'm a hairdresser. A verb? Okay, so I know, or adjective, I know that people don't mean it the way it comes across, and that's where I like to just step in and say, I know you don't mean it that way, but this is hurtful. If my son were to hear somebody call his sister the R word, I don't think he would be able to not say anything.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, the only thing he calls her is Emmy Bemmy, and that's as far as it goes. There's no name calling. There's no it.
Right.
It would break my heart to have to share that word with him, to explain that word to him. And I know that day will come, and I dread it.
Of course. How could you not?
I dread that day.
Well, you know, it's so wonderful, and I can share this too, that both of our children have those siblings.
Yes.
Because they are not only a protector to them,
Yes.
but they're also a nurturer, and they're their best friends.
Absolutely.
I just think every single day, Lori, that my son Jacob has his two sisters, and I'm sure it's the same way with Tyler and with Emily.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That really is. And I also want to thank you just for being so open about your journey with her.
Absolutely.
You share the good, you share the bad, you share everything.
I have promised from day one, starting Emily's page, that I was going to have bad days, and I was going to share the bad days, and I'm going to have good days, and I'm going to share the good days. So there were days where I would be sobbing in my daughter's hospital room, and I would go live, because it's all part of our journey. I don't think it's fair to pretend that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of her story. It's part of our story.
Right.
I always say your life is a book. It's part of your chapter. And I do like to look back at those pictures and those videos to today and say, we did that. We survived that. We look at her now. You know, she's in the backyard splashing in the pool, and 2 years ago she was on life support. Yeah. So to have like Time Hop or like those Facebook reminders pop up and show you a picture. There's a picture of me, and I took it myself. People say, who took that picture? I did, because it was I had walked into her room and she was intubated for the 5th time. And I was so upset, and I had my phone in my pocket, and something just said, Laura, you're going to want to remember this moment, because she's going to come through it. So I was literally sitting over her body, and I was just sobbing, and I took a picture, and I wanted to remember. It's one of my favorite pictures to this day, because it was the most real, raw moment. And if my husband was there with me, I would have had him take the photo, but I had nobody there. So I took that photo, and I did get a couple people say, why would you take a photo of that? My reason literally is because I wanted to show her someday how strong she is. Mm-hmm. And look at where you were, and look at where you are now. So I cherish that photo more than any photo I have of her.
I love that. That's awesome. Yes. How empowering.
Take the picture. Even on your worst day, take the picture. Take Absolutely. The video. Because it's not forever. And if it is forever, don't you still want those memories? Even if they're hard, it's all part of your story. It's all a part of who that person is or was. I'm very big on capturing moments and remembering them.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Good for you, Lori. And I think that, moms all around, you're inspiring moms and parents around the country in this area.
I hope so.
So thank you for all that you do. Really, thank you. We want to welcome some people who just joined us: Natasha, Mark, Bethany, Christine. Thank you for being part of this show this evening. We're so glad to have you with us. Michelle writes in. She says, "Do you just brush it off?" Oh, I'm sorry. We already talked about that. Excuse me. Stephanie writes in. She says, "How do you handle hospital PTSD?"
Ooh. PTSD from a hospital stay is something that I don't think I admitted I had until recently. Emily was so just real quick, she had her first open heart surgery at 3.5 months old. That was on May 16th, 2016. The very next day, that was to repair her original heart defect AV canal, to patch that main hole and create 2 valves. The very next day, she went into heart failure. So Emily's stay should have only been 3 to 5 days. It ended up being 95 days and 5 intubations. She was so sick. The staff will say, we never thought we were going to lose her. But as a parent, I can't tell you how many times I thought we were going to lose my daughter. And So then they did a second, I always say it was her life-saving open heart surgery. They did that one on July 11th, 2016. So we just had the anniversary of that one. She was there for 3 months. Now, before that, she was there for feeding issues. She had a G tube. Then she got the an NG tube. Then she got the G tube. Then she had her tonsils and adenoids removed. And then just recently had her third open heart. And in between all of that, she was admitted every single month to the ICU. So when I say every month, I mean every month. She had an admission in January, an admit in February, March, April, May, June. We got July and August off, and then she started getting admitted again in September, and every time was to the ICU. So with that being said, recently I started seeing a counselor for myself because my anxiety was getting out of control. I did talk about this openly on Emily's page. I was starting to self-medicate with Xanax, and it was getting to the point, not that I felt like I was abusing it, but I was taking it every day. Like I almost needed it every day because my anxiety was so bad. And it wasn't until I went to the counselor and it just all kept going back to the hospital. Everything went back to the hospital, the admits. You know, my husband was home with Tyler. I was at the hospital by myself. I felt like a lot of it, if not all of it, was put on my shoulders. It was very hard. It was a very, very hard time. So I did start an antidepressant, and I feel like mental health is not something to be ashamed of. PTSD is not something to be ashamed of. And I think that if it's something that you feel you might have, I think it's best to seek the attention of a medical professional. And I started on an antidepressant, and thankfully in the past 6 weeks have not felt the need to take a Xanax. So it's working.
That's amazing.
I started working out, I just making sure to do things for me. But PTSD from a hospital is so real. And you have to go for labs to the hospital. I do notice my heart start racing, and I see doctor's phone number calling, and I'm like, oh my God, why are they calling? Why are they calling? And I start shaking. So it is a very real and scary thing.
Wow. And I'm sure that this is something that I'm not familiar with. But I can imagine watching your child out of all people that this is, I mean, are there support groups for this? Are there, as
far as PTSD post-hospital?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of, but again, this is something that I just recently kind of found within myself. So this is a new journey for me.
Wow.
Trying to figure out where the anxiety stems from, where my depression was stemming from, and it all goes back to around the time Emily was sick. So this is a new journey, and like I said, I go every Monday to my therapist, and we talk, and I've been feeling so much better. It helps so much to talk about it, and I want other moms to know that it's normal and you're not alone. I too suffered from depression and anxiety, and I do have to take a medication every day to control it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with not doing anything and putting a Xanax on it. That's
right. Absolutely. And self-care, and this is something we talk about a lot every single week, it seems like, on our show, is the most important, vital thing you can do for yourself. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in what's going on with your child that you're not paying attention. And so I'm so glad, Lori, that you brought that up and that you shared your story, because I know that there are many other people out there.
They feel guilty.
They feel guilty. Right.
There was one time I remember I posted something on Emily's page. She was intubated. They had her on medications where she basically just slept. They basically had her in a paralytic state. And I had said something like, oh, Emily's doing well today, I think I'm going to sneak out and get a pedicure. And I was berated. I was attacked by people on her page saying, I can't believe your daughter's on life support and you're worried about a pedicure. I was like a deer in headlights. I couldn't believe that was happening. So I brushed it off. And then later on that night, I went live, and I'm like, you know what? To the people who said something, shame on you. I did go get that pedicure, and I feel a million times better, because my favorite saying is, you cannot pour from an empty glass. So fill your glass first so that you can pour to your children. So I did. I snuck out. I was gone for 45 minutes. Not that I have to justify that to anybody.
No.
But I went and got a pedicure. It was the middle of summer, and who cares? Who cares if I want to
Who cares?
or go get a massage?
Absolutely. Oh, Lori, I can't.
Yeah, it was.
Go
awful.
ahead. I can't.
No, it was just awful, and people were jumping to my defense on her page. They're like, "How dare you?" And I didn't want that either, so I just comment. I'm like, I don't want this to be a place of negativity. I try to keep her page as light and fun as I can.
Absolutely. Well, I think that that's great. And at that time, that's what you needed. That was the self-care you needed. You wasn't getting a pedicure. It wasn't ignoring your child. It was, you needed to go into a place where you could feel relaxed and at peace. And being in that hospital was so, I'm sure, so stressful.
Those walls are what nightmares are made of. I mean, truly.
Absolutely. No, Lori, I'm on your side. I think not side, but like I can empathize. I understand.
Thank you.
Of course. So Betsy writes in, Lori, she says, what is your advice for a mom with the same prenatal diagnosis you received?
Oh, try to enjoy your pregnancy. It's so hard to do. That was the one regret I had, is that I let it consume me. I did not enjoy the rest of my pregnancy because I just was so scared. Try to enjoy your pregnancy. I think it's also healthy to reach out to support groups as soon as possible. Yeah. So as soon as you get that prenatal diagnosis, as soon as you feel ready, reach out to a Gigi's Playhouse, reach out to a CHD support group. Pediatric Congenital Heart Association of Illinois is a great resource. There's the National Association for Down Syndrome, a great resource. Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network with Jen Jacob, who has become a dear friend of mine, who actually is the one who is doing the ticket for the
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen. Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network is strictly on Facebook. It's a huge connection, and they subcategorize based on the year your child was born, based on your child's needs, based on your child's conditions. So you have a core group of 100 people, not necessarily local to you, but that are going through the exact same thing. So Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network, it would be my number one resource to check out. And it's nice because some moms are not ready to get out and meet people. They want to hide. And I know I did. So joining a Facebook group like DSDN is very, I think, healthy, because then you can kind of talk about all those scary feelings you're feeling. And I've had moms reach out to me, and I've spoken to, I can't even count how many mothers I've talked to on the phone who were pregnant and scared. And I like to gloat about it because I'm very proud of it, but I have 13 names of 13 children who were born because of Emily's story. I have 13 mothers who have reached out to me who have said they chose not to terminate their pregnancy solely on Emily's story. And I have all their names written down, and I said, you send me a picture every year on their birthday. And it's just the coolest thing. I just added, I had 12.
I'm trying not to cry right now. That gave me goosebumps.
You know, it's been going on so long.
Oh, Lori.
Because it's just so exciting. But 13 children are in this world because I chose to share my daughter's story. So for all the naysayers that say, you got a pedicure, why do you share so much? That's why. That's why.
Absolutely. I love that more than I can even express.
I do too. I am so proud of that. I tell us
you should be.
Listen, I tell them that I saved 13 lives. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a doctor, but I saved 13, or I helped save 13 lives. Yeah.
That's incredible. Thanks for sharing that.
Small world. I actually got to meet one of them. She ended up being in the same hospital as Emily, and they were neighbors in the pediatric ICU. So I got to physically hug and embrace that mom, and I got to meet her daughter, and she got to meet Emily, and it was one of the most beautiful encounters of my life. And she
love
knows
that.
who she is, and I think she's
Sure.
watching. So I love you, and I love your daughter, and I'm so happy that she's here.
That's the most touching thing I've heard all day,
Oh.
all week. Really, that's just, I don't think I can even put in words. I mean, to think of all these
Yes.
sweet children who are here now because of Emily,
Yes.
her story inspired.
I call them her friends. Your friends.
Yes,
Your
your
friends.
friends. Absolutely. And they are.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. We are getting tons and tons. So I'm trying to say all, give you everything, all the questions and comments we're getting in here.
Right.
Rob says journey is such an important and pivotal word. Totally agree. I believe it's CeeLo, maybe? CeeLo. Now that you have Emily, do you notice or spot another child or adult with Down syndrome? Because I feel like I do all the time. It's so beautiful to find people others have paved the way or lived it.
Yes. So true. I always joke, it's like when you get a brand new car and then you see it on the road everywhere you go. I got a Nissan Rogue like 10 years ago, and as soon as I got a Nissan Rogue, I saw Nissan Rogues on the road all the time. I feel the same way about Down syndrome. I said to my husband, I go, were we always so exposed to individuals with Down syndrome, but we were so blind to it? Because now I have like Down syndrome radar. Like I always find somebody in the grocery store or at the mall, and this goes back to like the staring concept. I'm not staring because I'm like, oh my God, I'm staring because that's my daughter's future, walking around the mall, grocery shopping. I absolutely notice it more. I shared a story a few weeks ago. I was at Meyer, and this gentleman came up to us and he goes, oh, I remember when my mom used to push me around in the shopping cart. And this man was probably in his 40s. And I go, oh, you do? And he goes, yeah, it was so much fun. Now I'm an adult and I have to pay bills and I have to go to work. So he says to my kids, he goes, enjoy it while you can. And he gave Tyler a high five and he went on his way. And I couldn't help but watch as he paid for his groceries and walked outside and got in his car and drove away. Now that story sounds pretty typical, except this individual had Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And to see how he was just holding a conversation with my kids. He had a job. He was paying for his groceries. He was getting in a car to drive away. It was just so cool. I couldn't help but watch him interact with all these, and he was just so friendly, and it just
that's awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like right now, Lori, is the best time in history to have Down syndrome.
Absolutely.
Because the future is so bright.
Yep.
And there are so many opportunities.
Yes.
The doors are opening everywhere.
They're being seen for what they are now. Finally.
That's right.
They're being given a chance. They were never given a chance before.
That's right. Absolutely. And it's incredible. And I'm so hopeful for my son's future, Jacob, for Emily's future, and for all the children out there that have either Jacob's 3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Yes. It's an exciting time. And I'm so thrilled that our kids will have a solid future.
Absolutely.
And I believe that, I see it happening. I'm sure you do too. We both do, as advocates in the field, you see this stuff and you see things really are changing for the better.
Yep.
And it's an amazing thing to witness.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story on that man. That's fantastic. But that is thankfully what we're going to be seeing more and more of, I believe. Donna suggests, Lori, that you tell the story what Dr. Calvert told you when you were worried about Tyler accepting Emily.
Oh, I'm trying to go back. I'm having a little bit of a block. I can't remember. Dr. Calvert is our pediatrician, along with Dr. Cassie,
Okay.
who are two of the greatest people in this world. I mean, they have been fierce advocates for Emily this all along. I don't remember specifically with the situation with Tyler, but I do remember calling Dr. Calvert when I was pregnant with Emily, and I was crying, and I told him, I remember calling before the office even opened, and somebody did answer, and I just said, I need to talk to Dr. Calvert immediately. And I was hysterical, and they're like, oh, he's gonna have to call you back. And I'm like, no, I just need to talk to him. So they got him, and he got on the phone. And I said, Dr. Calvert, is my daughter ever going to ride a bike? Is she ever going to drive a car? Will she ever swim? And I was hysterical. And he said to me, he goes, Laura, are you going to teach her to ride a bike? Are you going to teach her to swim? Are you going to teach her to drive a car? And I said, yes. He goes, then she will.
Nice.
I loved that.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Perfect response.
Yes. I cannot think of the specific story with Dr. Calvert and Tyler, though. I apologize. I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. I'm sure there is one there because that man is so full of wisdom and advice. I'm so sorry. I'm drawing a little blank on that story.
No problem. Well, I think it's awesome that you have fans that are following every single aspect. That's fantastic.
Than I do, apparently.
They are tuning in. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Emily asks, what is the most important thing that Emily has taught you about life?
Oh,
that's a great question, Emily.
Literally to just stop rushing. Stop rushing. There's no hurry in life. There's no urgency when it comes to just life. It goes by way too fast. I used to be Emily's 2.5 and she doesn't even stand unassisted yet. She's not even close to walking. And I did let it bother me in the beginning when she wasn't crawling or doing things that her typical peers were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But Emily also can do things that her peers can't do. She can make people from across the country smile. She can light up any room she enters. She can army crawl like nobody else can army crawl. That girl can, she just has her own agenda, and she truly has just taught me to smile at the hard times and just slow down, slow down.
That's a good message for all of us.
Slow down.
That's fantastic. Good.
Enjoy the time while they're little while you can.
That's right. Montag writes in and they ask, what's a cool thing that Emily does now?
Oh my God, this is my favorite. It's a horrible habit, but we all know that 2-year-olds like to throw stuff off of their high chair. But her new thing, and it's so cute, she'll throw something and then she'll go, I'll go. It is the sweetest.
I love it.
And I'm like, you little stinker, you know exactly where it's at. And she also shows her muscles. So if you say, Emily, where's your muscles? She'll go, and she'll flex her muscles. And she doesn't have any muscles, but
she thinks she does.
Oh yeah.
That's all that matters, Lori.
Has been laughing all day. And everybody, if you follow Emily's heart, you know that Emily has her infamous scary face. And her scary face is a fan favorite. She does the silly little face, and it's the cutest thing ever. Look at the live video, and people are requesting the scary face.
That is so cute. So she has a fan favorite. I love it.
She does.
That's awesome.
Some new expressions, little girl.
That's great.
Scary face.
All right, we're trying to keep up here. So guys, thank you so much for contributing in tonight. We have many more here. Millie asks, how has Emily's diagnosis affected you and your husband's decision on whether or not to have more children?
I don't think her diagnosis has. I think that we originally, if anything, I've always wanted 3 children. My husband was fine with 2. We had always said, if we get a boy and a girl, we'll be done. I honestly feel as though Emily's diagnosis almost makes me want a third a little bit more. Not to say it, when I say it out loud, it always sounds so selfish. So bear with me when I explain this, but we were giving Tyler a sibling so that he would have, and not everybody is guaranteed to be able to have kids. So I know that that's not the only reason, but I wanted Tyler to have nieces and nephews. I wanted him to have a sibling that would grow up with him and be able to help him take care of mom and dad, or take care of anything, or have family parties together, have their her husband, his wife, just the typical things that siblings do.
Sure.
Emily won't be able to give him that. She will be able to give him so much other things and so many other things. But I feel as though I never want to call Emily a burden. She is not that. But the responsibility of if me and Marcus are gone to take care of her. So I don't want to give Tyler another sibling. I would like to give a different sibling. I would like to give him another sibling to just add to the fun. And I don't want people to hear me say that and think, oh, so you're just having another kid to take care of Emily. That's not it at all. It's just a realistic thought in my head. And plus, I've always just wanted 3 kids. So I have some convincing to do because he's pretty good with just the 2 kids. But her disability does change that perspective, but probably not in the way people would think. Most people would say, oh, you probably don't want any more kids. If I got another Emily, then I get another Emily. And then I have 2 extra special little girls. That wouldn't change anything, but I would like a 3rd child. I would.
Well, as a mom of 3 kids, I can say 3 is a great number. We're really happy with 3.
Call my husband in here.
Right? Sure, I'll talk to him. I'll be like, hey, buddy, you need 3 kids.
Video, you're gonna call him.
It's a good balance. You know, I'm with you, Lori. 3's good. We're happy with our 3.
Both come from families with 3 kids, so I don't know what his problem is. He doesn't want to be outnumbered.
He just wants to be difficult, right? All right. Steph writes in and she says, as an advocate for Sebastian, I know this is a hard job. People sometimes don't always understand why we do what we do. So thank you for being strong and continuing to be an advocate mama. Awesome.
Thank you, Steph. I love you. I know who that is, and I love her little boy.
Oh, very nice. That's awesome. Does she have a page as well for her son?
She does not have a page. She has an Instagram.
Okay.
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but Stephanie would be a great Movement Monday mother for you.
Excellent.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
Information.
Yeah, please do.
If you're still watching, you got to get on this because she has a great story to share as well.
I would love to hear it. Perfect. Michelle writes in, Michelle Hill says that Allison just said your name. I'm assuming this is one of your friends, Lori.
Yes.
She asked, who's that? And I said, Miss Lori. And she said, Yari.
Oh, so Michelle's daughter, Allison, has Down syndrome. She's
love it.
That's the first time she's ever said my name. So that actually makes me really
That's exciting. A lot of cool stuff has happened tonight during this interview. So that's perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. That's really sweet. Well, we are, okay, I'm looking to see what else is coming in here right now. This has been crazy tonight. So we're so glad to have this.
I'm glad we had a good turnout.
It's been good. So is there something tonight that we haven't touched on yet, Lori, that you want to share with us this evening?
I just continue to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think that ignorance isn't always bliss. I think that people sometimes are afraid. I feel very strongly about pregnant women with a prenatal diagnosis. And I think the biggest thing is I remember, and again, I'm just going to be honest. I've always been open and honest. I had fears. Is she going to be cute? Am I going to love her as much as I love Tyler? Is she going to fit in? All of those things were going through my head, and I remember feeling so guilty about them. But just like I said before, and like Rob commented, the journey, it's all about the journey. You have to respect the journey. Your journey is going to take you in highs and lows and valleys and peaks. And now I look at Emily and I'm like, oh, you're the most beautiful little girl I've ever seen. You are the happiest little girl I've ever seen. So I guess the one thing I want to say is if you're pregnant and you're scared, reach out to me, reach out to another mom. DSDN is, again, a great support. I just try not to hold it in. It's just going to make it that much harder. Talk about it. It's healthy to talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great advice. You know, when you were talking about the 13 children that you helped intervene,
Yes.
It reminded me, and you probably know about Chloe as well, little Chloe in Scotland. She does a lot of modeling. Her mom's wonderful.
Yes.
Her mom wrote a comment when that video of her went viral right before World Down Syndrome Day.
Yep.
Her mom wrote and said, because of this, a mom in America wrote me and said she saw the video of Chloe and she decided to keep her child. And I read that and that gave me goosebumps. And then when you were talking, that gave me goosebumps. Yeah. And I thought, you moms in the Down syndrome community you're on fire.
We are, and I'm proud to be part of this community. I truly am so proud to be part of this community.
It's just an incredible, incredible community. I have all the respect in the world for the Down syndrome community.
As do for you. I mean, you're not, your situation is hard. It's challenging. So, I mean, I feel as though the Down syndrome community and the autism community we're just one. Don't mess with us.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We're a force to be reckoned with. I completely agree. And it's so good that we have one another. But one of the things that I noticed when I first started into advocacy, the world of advocacy, is the force of the Down syndrome community. Yeah. And, and I just love soaking up your energy from the DS community specifically. Yeah. The autism world is great too. It really is. But there is just something so wonderful about the DS.
The Down syndrome community, most of our children don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
They have a voice, they just don't know how to use it yet.
Right.
So I think that's where our drive kicks in, that we have to be their advocate. We have to be their voice. We have to speak up for them. And I think even when Emily does start to talk, I probably won't shut up. I'm probably still going to be talking for her and advocating for her. And
that's right. And that's right. And that's how change happens, though, is through our constant, you will not push my child aside. Thank you.
The process of enrolling Emily in preschool. Because she'll be 3 in January. And for those of you who don't know, once a child turns 3, before the age of 3, they are eligible for in-home services. PT, OT, speech, developmental therapy. All of the therapies are at home, which is a wonderful, wonderful service. However, when they turn 3, they get, I don't want to say thrown into the district, but in essence, they kind of do. They get put into the school district. So at the day after Emily's 3rd birthday, on January 31st, she will start school. So we are just now starting the process of the IEP meetings, and it's a very tough pill to swallow, because it's one thing to know things that your child isn't doing or isn't capable of doing, but to see it in black and white and to hear other people say it is gut-wrenching. It is so hard. But I think that school will be good for her. I think she's going to get a lot more not necessarily one-on-one, but it's going to be 5 days a week instead of just here and there a week. So I am excited. I'm terrified of the school bus. So if anybody has any good stories, good experiences with the school bus, I'm so scared about the school bus, but
I'm sure
totally
it's gonna be
that
great.
Mom that follows the bus. I'm not even gonna lie.
Get in your car, drive after it.
I already told my husband, follow that bus. I want to. I'm not even embarrassed about it.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
I'll do it when Tyler gets on the bus too. So.
There you go. It's what you do for your kids, right? There you go. And, I think that IEP process is pretty universal, because that's the same way here in Virginia. And it can be intense. It can be intense. But, I go get it, Mama. You're doing great.
So, thank you.
Okay, so we have one more comment here. Brian says a lot of counties have a day before school starts where you can park near a bus and they'll let you take your child on and off and teach them how it all works.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have it. I know here in Chesterfield we have something like that. They actually have a day where the kids can get on and off the bus itself. And they have someone talk to them, and so that'd be worth looking into. And think you guys.
meeting yet. We're just starting the process. So
Okay.
I will definitely put that in my binder of questions and comments. But that's
There
good
you
to
go.
know. That's good to know. So thank
And
you
if not,
for-
advocate for that one, Lori.
Absolutely. If not, then they could.
There you go. Absolutely. So Lori, one more thing. Can you tell us a little bit about the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network as well?
Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network is one of, you talked about the Down syndrome community being a force to be reckoned with, and I think it stems from DSDN. It's a network that helps in prenatal diagnoses from birth till the age of 18. You, like I said, are subcategorized into age groups, diagnoses, and all these things. So when Emily was very ill last January, she was very, very sick. My subgroup all came together and chipped in money, and they sent me a beautiful quilt. And the quilt was covered with images of all the babies, all of Emily's friends within my subgroup. And the blanket said, "Wrapped in love by your DSDN family." So it was such a sweet, and we still have it. We bring it to every doctor appointment. But it's just a great support group, and they'll, send a Starbucks gift card. But so we do a lot of fundraising for them, and the fundraising goes towards supporting parents like me who are going through a hard time, or dads even. I mean, they allow dads. It's not just for moms. So that's something that I think a lot of dads feel intimidated by, but we welcome dads with open arms. They actually, Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network even has a subgroup for grandparents. So whoever you are, if you are an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a sibling, anything, there are subcategories. You are more than welcome to search them, look them up. They're all private, but if you get an invitation from somebody, you are welcomed into this community that is just so beautiful and so supportive. Everybody is just rooting each other on. And Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network, and Jen Jacob is the founder. She is one of the most amazing people you will ever talk to.
Fantastic. I'd love to have her too on the show.
Yes, absolutely. She's wonderful.
That's wonderful. Well, we made sure that we posted it in the comments so people can find that. Lori, if there's a way or if somebody wants to find out more about this, like as we post in the comments, is there something like, can they email someone, or can they, like, where can they talk directly?
DSDN.com. You can go to their website. I believe it's DSDN.com. It might be .org. Forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head, but DSDN.com. And there should be a contact button on the website, or you can go through Facebook and personally look up Jen Jacob and send her a friend request. She accepts all friend requests, and she will call you if you need to chat. She will put you in connection with whoever you need. So Jen Jacob and the DSDN network.
Awesome. Thank you. And it looks like Rob wrote another comment in. He said, you mentioned hospital PTSD, but there's also post-traumatic growth with a positive support around them as well. So I guess that's something else with post-traumatic, did I say that right? Yes, post-traumatic growth. So if that is something, then know that there is support groups for that as well. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Wonderful. Well, Lori, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being part of this. Oh my gosh. The pleasure is all ours. We were so thrilled to have you tonight. We had a fabulous, lively discussion. And we want you now to pick a number between 1 and 200. This is for who's going to win the ticket tonight.
Let's go with 30, because Emily and Tyler were both born on the 30th.
Nice. There you go. 30. All right. So we're going to wait here, do a little drum roll, see who the lucky winner is. All right. We're waiting.
Could have picked a lower number.
Standing by, it says. All right. Okay. Brian. All right. Montag Christian, you are the winner tonight. Congratulations. And you can either, it'd probably be best if they emailed you, right? And you can just
I will get her
straight
in
up.
touch with Jen, and Jen will get the ticket, the virtual ticket to her. Yes.
Fantastic. Great. All right. Well, thank you again so much. And thank you for all you do. And we all love Emily. We all love following your family. And just keep raising awareness. You're doing an amazing job at it.
Thank you. And you are too. Thank you for all
Thank
that you do.
Thank you again. So glad we had that mutual respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Lori. Well, you have a wonderful evening. And thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. You guys all raised some wonderful questions, wonderful comments. You kept this very lively discussion tonight. So thank you for joining us. And we look forward. We will not have a show next week because my producer, Kent, will be on vacation. But we will see you the week after that. And we hope you'll join us again.